Hey everyone, in this video we're meeting a couple who paid off $125,000 of debt in just 24 months while living in a tiny house. Just a couple of years into their marriage, Marek and Kothney-Issa had found themselves in debt like a lot of young people who are just starting out. They had student loans, car loans, credit card debt, the cost of their tiny house, and more. To achieve their debt-free goal, they used Dave Ramsey's debt snowball method, along with a lot of discipline and multiple side jobs. We're really excited to share their story with you, so let's go meet up with them.
So we actually met in middle school. We pretty much grew up together, got out of school, got married pretty much right after graduation, and just celebrated 5 years.
I started working as a resident director at the school that I graduated from, and he was working
as a retail manager.
Right off the bat, like, we were making a lot more money than we ever made in our lives. And I remember actually talking to my hairstylist at the time, and she was telling me about Dave Ramsey, and I was like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. We could really get out of debt quick. And he was like, no, we're young, we gotta live it up. And so that's what we did.
In one ear and out the other.
Yep. It was ridiculous. We were traveling like so much back then. It was a lot of fun. I'm not gonna say it wasn't, but we definitely could have made some traction.
We just kind of were going through life, you know, charge this, charge that, and didn't think much of it. You know, our spending was pretty much just wide open, no real thought process to it, no intentionality to anything that we were doing at the time. I specifically remember, like, I would say things like, man, I can walk into a store, sign my name on a piece of paper, and walk out with what I want.
Yep.
And I literally felt a sense of like power and control. Like, I thought that really meant something. And it was just like, I'm signing up for payments, you know, I'm signing up for debt.
So when we first graduated from college, I had about I had precisely $32,000 in debt. He only had about, $12,000?
Yeah, I had about $12,000 in student loans coming out of school.
And then his car, which was about
$24,000, bought it brand new.
Mm-hmm. And then
learned the depreciation lesson the hard way.
Yeah. And then several years later, we bought my car brand new for about $18,000.
Learned all about depreciation a second time the hard way.
We started the debt-free journey in May of 2017.
The number that I remember the most is $125,000 was the peak of our debt, inclusive of the tiny house,
yes,
which was $55,000. So I think the thing that really made us reevaluate our financial situation and decide to start paying off debt was we actually received a settlement of around $10,000.
Yeah.
And I just really, like, literally got on Google and started doing research about, you know, what to do with a large lump sum. Came across Dave Ramsey and his financial principles and his YouTube channel, and it really just caught my eye, like how direct he was and frank he was with people. And a lot of the things he would say, it was like, wow, I literally do the same thing, or I literally think that way, and it's killing us financially. And so I came home one day and I was super excited about this new guy, Dave Ramsey, that I had found. And
then I'm like, tell me more.
Couple of years.
I had only talked to him about it that first year, and then I was like, okay, well, if you don't think we should be saving that, I guess let's just blow it off.
So she was already familiar with the plan and the process and was just kind of waiting for me to get on board. So that really helped, you know, that we both were on the same page, because it's such a difficult process. So the Dave Ramsey plan is basically what's called the debt snowball, where you basically organize your debt in order of smallest debt to largest debt, and you attack it with everything you got. You know, you throw every extra penny you can find at that smallest debt until it's completely wiped out. And then you roll everything you were paying on that debt, plus all the extra money you can come up with, and you start attacking the second one. And then you continue and continue. And as you build momentum, it really like motivates you to continue. It is very behavioral focused. It's not so much as the math and what has the highest interest rate, but instead it's, wow, I'm making progress with this. I'm seeing positive results. That psychologically motivates you to keep pushing.
Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh, this is really coming down fast.
Yeah.
What does he always say? If it were about the math, you'd already be out of debt.
Right.
So
or you wouldn't be in it in the first place.
Right. But before we did that, we had to actually sit down and create a budget. It was pretty extensive. This is our stack of budget. There are 24 in here, but literally we wrote everything down, every account. We started with 12 accounts that we had to pay off. It was a lot of work. And then also our grocery budget, it was pretty hefty because we were buying a lot of stuff that's already pre-made, and you know that stuff is a lot more expensive than buying stuff where you have to cook yourself. After we started seeing like our accounts go down and we started having like only about 4 or 5 accounts left, I'm sure he did too, but I started to get really motivated, and I was just like, okay, how can we pick up extra jobs? How can we like do more? Where can we get more money from so that we can start getting this debt knocked off even faster? And I think probably the last 8-9 months we picked up extra work. I am a teacher. I was teaching, I was coaching, I was also working at a restaurant. And then in the summer I picked up a lifeguarding job.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. So I had my full-time job, and then at one point I was working 3 different jobs at a warehouse, UPS, Pizza Hut, Domino's, PF Chang's. So those 5 were the 5 different places I worked during the 2-year period. But at any given time, it was never more than 3.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that, you know, you have to have some massive income in order to get out of debt, which ultimately, I mean, we did create a massive income by working all those jobs, but it's not like we had that, you know, to start with in our full-time jobs. Like at the time I was making like mid-30s, and as a teacher, she was making like high 30s. But I mean, we were both still in the $30,000 range. So no doctors or lawyers here.
Yeah.
We just really picked it up and really got after it with the side jobs, with the pizza delivery and the restaurants and anything we could pick up.
In order for us to cut costs, it really just took a lot of discipline. We decided, listen, this is our goal. We want to be out of debt, so we need to stop all this spending. Once we put it on paper, we just decided we're going to do this. We kept each other accountable. It did really feel like a punishment at first. It's like, dang, we can't do nothing. Like, our friends saw very little of us during this time.
Yeah. But we just always kept the end in sight. And one thing I'll say about the plan is like the structure is solid. The intensity is up to the person that's working the plan. So you can follow the plan and put your intensity on a 5 instead of a 10, and it's going to take you longer, but it still works, and you'll still continue progressing and making progress. So it took us exactly 24 months to pay off all our debt from start to finish.
I remember when we first started the debt-free plan, we were like, okay, we're going to give up everything except for our 2-bedroom loft downtown because it is just too nice.
Yeah, the more we started getting after the debt, it was just like, we really had to re-examine that. And at the time, you know, we were both kind of making progress in our careers, and we're just like, you know, how do we keep geographic flexibility while also putting our money towards ownership, like she talked about, while also having something that, you know, has a future resale value or rental value. And we couldn't think of anything else, you know, but the tiny house. And so the tiny house didn't necessarily help us get out of debt, but it was more of like a forward thinking thing for like how we can stay out of debt. So like now we're out, you know, this allows us a lot more opportunity to save for a big down payment on a traditional house if we decide to go that route. So it was more about like, how do we remain debt free once we get out with the tiny house. And we have had that flexibility that we were looking for as well. You know, we've already lived in Florida, now we're in Texas.
With the tiny house.
Could be having another move here soon. We've been out of debt now for probably like 5 or 6 months. So yeah, our next step is 3 to 6 month emergency fund set aside in savings. And then we're going to really start working on our down payment for a traditional house.
If that's what we decide to do.
If that's what we decide to do. And if not, we can repurpose those funds.
As far as making sure that our debt doesn't creep back on us, we're still budgeting. It's not on paper anymore, but we sit down, we say, okay, what expenses are we going to have during the month? How are we going to be able to fit them into our budget? What is it that we're like accomplishing this month with our finances and things like that, which this month we are right spot on with our allowance budget. So
We actually got rid of, we didn't mention this before, but we actually got rid of all of our credit cards, shredded them all. So we literally only carry debit cards and cash. So that's one way that kind of helps it not creep back up. But once you do something like that and pay that all off, it's not even a temptation at all. So you don't really turn back.
Yeah.
If you want to follow Marek and Kothney-Issa's tiny house and financial freedom journey, you can find them on YouTube at Living Tiny with the Bushes and on Instagram at Tiny House Lifestyle. If you like this video, please share it. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.